The lights flicker once, then twice, then they go dark. And this time, they don't come back on. Not in an hour, not in a week, not ever. You're standing in your kitchen, surrounded by thousands of dollars of food that's about to rot. Your phone has 12% battery left. The water from your tap just slowed to a drip, then stopped completely. You think you're prepared because you have flashlights and bottled water, but you're not thinking about what happens 72 hours from now. You're not thinking about the cascade. This isn't a temporary blackout. This is a grid collapse. And most people have no idea that our entire civilization is balanced on a knife's edge, held together by three critical systems that all depend on one thing: continuous electricity. When that flow stops, these systems don't just pause, they fail, catastrophically, irreversibly. Today, we're going to walk through the physics of societal collapse, step by step, so you understand exactly what breaks, when it breaks, and why you can't stop it once it starts. Picture the water infrastructure in your city. It's not gravity doing the work. It's a vast network of electric pumps running 24/7, pushing millions of gallons uphill, through treatment plants, into elevated storage tanks. The moment the grid dies, those pumps stop. You might still have water pressure for a few hours. That's just the residual pressure draining from the system, the water tower emptying out. But here's the critical failure point most people miss. It's not just about the pumps stopping, it's about what happens to the water that's already in the pipes. Modern municipal water systems maintain something called positive pressure. This means the water pressure inside the pipes is always higher than the pressure outside. This isn't a comfort feature, it's a safety mechanism. It prevents contamination. The pressure creates an outward force that stops soil, bacteria, and sewage from seeping in through the microscopic cracks and joints that exist in every aging pipe network. The second those pumps die, that positive pressure collapses. Now you have thousands of miles of pipe sitting at ambient pressure, or worse, creating negative pressure, a vacuum. The pipes begin to breathe in their environment. Groundwater contaminated with fertilizer runoff, leaking sewage from nearby sanitary lines, industrial chemicals that have soaked into the soil for decades. It all gets sucked in. Even if the power comes back on in a week, the damage is done. The entire distribution network is now a toxic reservoir. Flushing it, testing it, and recertifying it safe would take months, maybe years. You're not waiting for the power to return. You're waiting for the complete reconstruction of a water system that took a century to build. And that's just the mechanical failure. Let's talk about the biological one. Every time you flush a toilet, that waste doesn't just disappear. It travels through a pressurized sewer system to a treatment plant, where it's processed through multiple stages: screening, aeration, sedimentation, all powered by electricity. Those systems have maybe 24 hours of backup generator fuel, if you're lucky. After that, raw sewage stops being processed. But it doesn't stop being produced. Now you have a city of millions still flushing toilets into a system that's no longer moving. The pipes back up. Sewage begins to pool in basements, in street drains, in low-lying areas. This isn't just disgusting, it's a biological weapon. Raw sewage is a concentrated soup of pathogens: E. coli, cholera, hepatitis A, parasites like Giardia. In the heat, it becomes a breeding ground for disease vectors: flies, rats, mosquitoes, all feeding on the waste, then spreading it into homes, into food supplies, into the standing water that people are now desperately drinking because their taps are dry. This is how epidemics start. Not from some exotic virus, but from the collapse of sanitation. History is clear on this. When cities lose sanitation, disease follows within days. Cholera wiped out tens of thousands in London in 1854 because of one contaminated water pump. Imagine that, but across every major city simultaneously. Your grocery store operates on a principle called just-in-time logistics. The shelves are stocked based on real-time data delivered by trucks multiple times per week. There is no warehouse in the back filled with months of food. The warehouse is the entire truck network constantly moving across the country. The second the grid dies, that network stops. Not just because trucks need fuel, though that's part of it. It's because every step of the modern food system is electric. The refrigerated warehouses keeping produce fresh, the automated sorting facilities, the payment systems, the fuel pumps at gas stations, all dead. Trucks that were in transit when the grid collapsed have maybe 48 hours of diesel in their refrigeration units. After that, the cargo spoils. Dairy, meat, frozen goods, gone. What makes it to the stores is looted within hours once people realize this isn't temporary. But here's the deeper problem. Modern agriculture itself is entirely dependent on the grid. Industrial farms rely on electric irrigation pumps, climate-controlled livestock facilities, and automated feeding systems. Without power, crops wither in the fields, livestock die from heat stress or starvation within days. And even if a farmer has a backup generator, they face an impossible equation. Diesel fuel is finite. Do they use it to pump water for crops that might not be harvestable for months? Do they slaughter the livestock now before they die, even though there's no refrigeration to preserve the meat? Every decision leads to loss. Within a week, fresh food is a memory. Within a month, the supply chain isn't disrupted, it's destroyed. Hospitals have backup generators. They're required by law. But those generators weren't designed to run indefinitely. They were designed for short-term outages, a few days at most, while linemen restore power. A large hospital consumes around 10,000 gallons of diesel per day to keep the lights on, the HVAC running, the ventilators breathing, the dialysis machines filtering blood. Most hospitals have fuel storage for maybe 3 to 7 days. After that, they're scavenging, competing with every other critical facility for a fuel supply that no longer exists. But it's not just about fuel. Modern medicine relies on a constant flow of supplies, IV fluids, medications, surgical instruments, oxygen tanks, all manufactured in centralized facilities and distributed via that same broken logistics network. When the trucks stop, the supplies stop. Then there's the patient load. When sanitation collapses and water becomes contaminated, hospitals are overwhelmed with cases of dysentery, cholera, infected wounds. Dialysis patients, who need treatment 3 times a week, start dying because the machines can't run. Diabetics run out of insulin, which requires refrigeration. The chronically ill, who depend on daily medications, deteriorate rapidly. The hospital transforms from a place of healing into a triage center, making impossible decisions about who gets the last of the resources and who doesn't. Humans can endure a lot when they believe it's temporary. A hurricane, a blizzard, even a week-long blackout. There's a shared understanding that help is coming, that normalcy will return. But when the power doesn't come back, when the grocery stores stay empty, when the water stays off, that belief shatters. This is when you see the collapse of the social contract. Law enforcement operates on the assumption of functional infrastructure. Police cars need fuel. Dispatch centers need electricity. Officers need to go home to families that also need food and water. When those needs aren't met, the system breaks down from within. Looters aren't arrested, they're ignored, then joined. Neighborhoods fracture into tribes. The suburbs, once dependent on centralized services, become indefensible. Rural areas with wells, livestock, and distance from population centers become the new fortresses. This is the part no one wants to talk about. The grid isn't just electricity, it's the invisible hand that keeps civilization civil. Remove it, and you're not living in the modern world anymore. You're living in the 1800s, but with 8 billion people and no infrastructure designed for that reality. So what do? You can't stop the grid from collapsing if it's going to happen, but you can decouple yourself from it before it does. Secure independent water, a deep well with a manual or solar-powered pump, a rainwater catchment system with proper filtration. This isn't a convenience, it's the difference between life and death. Build energy independence, solar panels with battery storage, not grid-tied systems that shut down when the grid dies. A backup generator with a real fuel supply, 500 gallons minimum, rotated and stabilized. Establish food security. Not a 2-week emergency kit, a year's supply of shelf-stable food, a garden, chickens, the ability to produce calories, not just store them. The grid dying isn't a possibility, it's a probability. Whether it's a cyber attack, a geomagnetic storm, or simple systemic failure, the question isn't if, it's when. And when it happens, your survival won't depend on luck. It will depend on whether you understood the cascade and prepared for it before the lights went out. Which of these 5 dominoes do you think most people are completely blind to? Tell me in the comments.